thanks for the introduction. Good morning, this is Christoph Hellmann speaking. So I have the honor to present to you some updates from the European branch of the ROS-Industrial Consortium. I'm actually the program manager of the consortium, and I just wanted to start to give you a short introduction to our facilities here from Fraunhofer IPA, who are managing the ROS-Industrial Consortium in Europe. Next slide, please. So essentially, Fraunhofer is a huge organization with over 80 research institutes. We have more than 24,000 employees and an annual budget of around 2.4 billion euros for research. And approximately 70% of these are generated through contract research. So only about 30% are actually funded by government. Next slide, please. And so the managing entity of the European consortium is actually Fraunhofer IPA, so one of the Fraunhofer institutes. Fraunhofer IPA is one of the three biggest Fraunhofer institutes with a budget of around 70 million euros for research a year, of which around 25 million euros are actually industrial revenues. And we have about 1,000 employees, and each year we are conducting around also 1,000 projects with industry or research. And we have different kind of laboratories, as you can see, so not only robotics. So we actually cater all needs from biomanufacturing over, for example, electroplating to robotics. Next slide, please. And so one part of our activities is actually managing the ROS-Industrial Consortium in Europe. Here in Europe, we have the great advantage that we have a privately funded action as well as a publicly funded action, which means we have the privately funded action, which is financed by companies, so the ROS-Industrial Consortium, and we have a publicly funded action which is funded by the European Union, which is called ROSN. And I just want to go on and explain a little bit the happenings that, well, the things that happened in the last year in both of these actions. Next. So I want to start with the ROSN project. So this is actually an activity that has been funded by the Horizon 2020 program of the EU. It has been running now for approximately 4 years, and this is also the length of it. So we had 8 million euros of funding from 2017 to the end of 2020. And essentially the key actions that we are targeting, which I also explain on the next slide, is to make ROS better and business friendlier and more accessible. So the first action to make ROS better is actually what we are doing there is trying to improve the software quality. As you know, from ROS-Industrial Consortium, we are already doing a lot in terms of continuous integration, unit testing, and code reviews for the repositories that ROS-Industrial is maintaining. But with the ROSN project, we wanted to take this further with also code scanning, automated test generation, and model-in-the-loop testing. If you want to know more about the activities, I think you get the slides later on. You can also check out the link below. To make ROS more business-friendly, the major activity that we did in that way was to fund ROSN-focused technical projects. So we had around 3.5 million euros allocated to this activity, so that companies could get 30% of their ROS project funded. 70% needed to be funded by the company itself. So essentially, we've spent all this money, so we can say that we have generated around, or essentially we had a development budget of around 10 million euros for new ROS components, so that's quite nice. You can also check this out on our homepage, as you can see below. And the last action to make ROS more accessible was to create more educational offers. So essentially, we ourselves actually created the ROSN Summer School and the ROS-I Academy. So ROSN Summer School for educating students, and the ROS-I Academy for educating professionals. And finally, we also had similar action as the ROSN FTPs, but for educational projects. So companies could receive funds to set up their own ROS education initiative. You can also check this out with a link below. Next. And some of the outcomes of the ROSN FTPs I want to present to you now. So one that probably most of you know is actually the UR robot driver. So actually ROSN helped us to convince Universal Robots to produce and maintain a driver on their own for their robot, which has actually resulted in one of the most sophisticated industrial robot interfaces that we have right now for ROS. So the driver features actually full remote control and also ROS usage in a UR cap. So that means you write your UR cap on the for the UR robot, and then you can actually activate ROS control when you need it. Next. Another activity that we had running, so this was an activity from the company Pilz, is actually industrial trajectory generation, so that you can program your industrial robots as you know from their standard interfaces. So actually this activity created a Python library that enables you to program your robot with commands like lin, ptp, and circ to generate these standard industrial robot programming style. Next. What we also found, and we're quite proud of that, is the development of MoveIt for ROS2. So essentially we've seen now the first release of MoveIt, which is actually a straight port to ROS2, but there are actually 2 more milestones planned. And there will be also real-time support added, and to fully leverage the ROS2 capabilities in milestones 3. Next. And what we've also been funding is the further development of ROS control for ROS2. So this activity has actually been taken over by Power Robotics. So they are actually now on the way to adopt ROS control to their robots to have a first implementation in ROS2 that is working with real robots. So there we're also quite happy to have this activity running and to see the results in the near future. Next. And finally, so if you're interested in the results of these projects, there is actually a homepage or a page on our website, the ROSN project. You can search under results. You'll see approximately 60 of these FTP projects that have been running for the last 3-4 years. And most of them actually also already have a link to the source code. So just check it out, and you'll probably find some interesting packages that you always wanted to use. Next. And finally, also for the ROSN EPs, so the ROSN educational projects, we've had quite a successful way there. So essentially we've set up 15 third-party ROS education projects all over Europe. So this means that we now have at least 15 institutions that offer in some kind of a way education for ROS, as you can see. So now this is more or less spread all over Europe. Next. And that's actually it, what I wanted to present for the ROSN action. And let's now just jump in for the ROS Industrial privately funded action. Next. Also here, I just want to present the results of the last year. So one of the bigger projects that we've been able to finalize last year was the Scalable 4.0 project. You can see below with partners such as Nashtag, PSA, Simulch, so large companies, small companies, and research institutes. And essentially, the goal there was to create an open full-stack manufacturing framework. And with ROS, we actually realized the control of the industrial robots as well as the mobile robots. And yeah, so if you want to check it out, you can also search Scalable on GitHub. There's a lot of repositories that are quite interesting. So one that I want to point out is actually the Robin project, or Robin project that we have realized in that action, which created a bridge between Cortesis and ROS, and is probably quite interesting to use for industrial automation purposes. Next. Also, the company Pulse is extending its portfolio. So maybe you've already seen that they are offering the PRBT robot, you can see here on the right, which is actually thought to be integrated into service robots. And they now also offer a laser scanner that kind of combines this, to make it able for you to control or to build your own service robots faster. Next. But this is actually not the only activity that we've seen in the last years from Phil's company, so they have been quite active. There are many more different repositories, and you can check those out on their own GitHub page. Next. We're also happy that Rhythmic Robotics has joined our consortium. You probably know Rethink from the Sawyer and the Baxter robot. Actually, Rethink was bought by the German Hahn Group, which is a huge system integrator. And so they also have quite nice activities in the ROS world. And the good news is actually that we will see a lot more ROS-based development from their side. So we can also look forward to the developments in this respect. And for this robot, you can check out the source code also on their GitHub account. Let's move to the next slide. One big result that we also had this year is actually the DHL Street Scooter, which was contributed by DHL, the postal services company from Germany. So essentially, they used ROS to find out how you can automate last mile delivery, and use their own electric car that you can see down on the right, with many different kind of sensors. So this is quite a nice example on how you can automate or how you can use ROS for autonomous driving. And the good news is also that they published a lot of their developments open source, so you can also check out these developments on the autonomous on their GitHub account, which is Autonomous Logistics. And finally, what I also wanted to say is that there is also a blog post describing all of the work that they have been done on our ROS-Industrial homepage. Let's move to the next slide. Another nice development this year, so I don't stop talking about this, is that Bosch Rexroth has also published a new component. So essentially, they are now offering the Locator software, which is actually thought for real-time mapping, which features a ROS interface and is easy to integrate into any service robot, has an intuitive software and user interfaces, and is created in a modular way. If you want to know more about that, we have actually Bosch Rexroth at our conference, ROS-Industrial Conference in December, explaining their developments on the Locator. Let's move to the next slide. The final thing I wanted to present to you is one activity that we've running between Fraunhofer IPA and FZI with other partners like KUKA and some universities and other companies, which is around building a service robot network. What does that mean? So Xeromet is the acronym for that. So essentially, we are creating So first on German basis, but we are trying to roll this out also to international in the next years. The so-called Robot One platform, which is there for brokering between system integrators and component manufacturers for service robots, as well as end users, so that you have one platform where you can see, okay, what are all the components, who are all the system integrators, and how can I use them, and who has the right competencies for my problem. And this is actually completed by a tooling that we are developing, which enables model-driven robot system development and actually creates compatibility between different standards that are used by robot components for communication. So currently we are supporting ROS, but also OP0A, SmartSoft, and others to come. So if you're interested in that, you can also reach out to me. So it's currently we are looking also for beta users. If you're a German company, you can also get funding to implement the necessary interfaces. Okay, next slide. So this has been a big overview of the activities that we've been having in the ROS-Industrial Consortium in Europe for the last year. Here I also want to point out our training activities. So we've had quite a number of trainings. We are very happy to have a fully ROS2 native developer training that has started actually in the beginning of this year. Fully virtual right now due to the pandemic. You see on the right the one that we executed in February, where we still had the opportunity to have people over. We also have the ROS developer trainings, which are actually executed by our consortium partners. So there's a last one scheduled actually in November this year. And if you're not able to join trainings, actually I also wanted to point out there's a very excellent MOOC from Delft University that has been developed also with ROS-Industrial and ROSN. So if you just want to learn ROS on the side, no specific times in mind, then just check out that MOOC. It's quite a nice way to start. Next slide, please. And the final announcement I wanted to make is that we have this virtual ROS Industrial Conference. So it's actually the 8th ROS Industrial Conference that we're hosting here in Europe, which is this year from 15th to 16th December. We have a program with now around 30 speakers, which is then structured into topic sessions. So if you're interested in the conference, check out the link below. We also are having a video competition, which is actually sponsored also by AWS. So we have quite nice prizes. The call is going to be open from 1st of November to end of November to hand in videos that you already have for example, professional applications. So if you, for example, are developing a product or have already a product that implements ROS, or for the other category, so if you're using ROS with cloud technology, then this is a video that you can simply submit to our video call. Yeah, so we are very interested in seeing your results. It doesn't need to be a new video, just if you have a video on YouTube or Vimeo, just please submit this video to our call. And then, next slide please. That's everything from my side. I hope you have a good overview of the activities in the last year. We've been quite active, and yeah, thank you for your time, and yeah, I'm open to your questions.
Thank you, Christoph. Now we will proceed to a short Q&A question. So on screen we have one question for Christoph. Is Bosch Locator open source? And what are the main differences between with Google's I think cartographer?
So the Bosch Locator is not open source. So essentially, I'm not 100% in the details of what exactly are the differences with the Google cartographer. But essentially, what the advantages of the Bosch Locator is that they support a number of different locating solutions, and well, they have the ROS interface. If you want to know more about the Bosch Locator, you can join our conference. There will be a presentation on specifically the Bosch Locator and all the advantages.